Hello there everybody, What Culture's Adam Cleary here. You don't even want to know what number coffee this is, and we are not long back from just having seen the midnight screening of Avengers Endgame. Just want to point that out in case the comments are like, why do you look so old and tired? For once, it's not just because I am old and tired, it's because we have been up all night seeing that film, and god damn does it take it out of you. I'll be honest, I don't really feel particularly up to reviewing it. I'm not really sure I have the capacity or the knowledge or the skill or anything else involved to condense all of that down into a neat little review, but whatever it takes. Alright, so 11 years, 22 films, untold number of beloved characters, more movies in the pipeline, and the Russo brothers told us it would all end here. In fact, they were so confident of doing that, they even put the word end in the title. But at the same time, it can't be an ending, can it? Because there are loads more MCU movies to do. Some of them will star some of these characters, some of them are about these characters, so at the same time it needs to be an ending, yes, but it also has to be this grand new beginning. So the question going in for all of us was, how the hell do you do that? And well, if you are the Russo brothers, I can confirm your solution is to take the million or so ideas you will have had about how to bridge Infinity War to Phase 4 and do all of them in the same film. Alright, so first things first, you cannot talk about this movie in isolation. As much as I would love to, you have to talk about it in the context of Infinity War. If you cast your minds back years and years and years and years, it was originally pitched by Marvel as Infinity War Part 2, until they went, nah, it's not actually going to be that, it's going to be something else entirely, but, well, it kind of is. And the important thing to note about Infinity War was that it was a genuinely groundbreaking cinematic experience, but it was only that because it got to cheat. It didn't have to play by the rules established by other superhero films, by the superhero genre altogether, or even the MCU. It got to throw them all out the window and do whatever the hell it wanted. They got to walk into a pitch meeting and say, you know, you've just spent millions of dollars on getting Spider-Man back in the fold. Well, we want to send millions of children home crying by having him disintegrate into dust in Tony Stark's arms. They got to do that. That's the kind of thing you can only get away with in a Part 1. You can throw all the rules of an ending out of the window. You can have the good guys lose. You can have the villain be easily the most compelling character on screen. You can have a sad, overwhelmingly sad ending that throws the future of your entire franchise into question. Like, before I get into the real meat and drink of this review and we talk about the story and all that really interesting stuff, I just need you to appreciate the scale of that problem. Endgame needed to wrap up this rule-breaking film, but at the same time by bringing back in all of the conventional rules. It had to have the good guys win. It had to shift the focus all the way back onto them. It had to leave the fate of the franchise considerably clearer. All the things that Infinity War did not have to do and was much better for as a result, Endgame had to do while still improving on that. I know, I'm labouring this point massively, but you'll see why later. It's all very clever, all right? You'll see. All right, so Avengers Endgame, the story. What have we got? It has been mere days, we think, based on Tony Stark's log from when Thanos snapped his fingers and half of the universe, exactly as he promised, disintegrated into dust. It's all still very fresh. It's all still very traumatic. Nobody really knows what to do with themselves. The Avengers, or what's left of them anyway, are frantically searching for a solution while Tony and Nebula are slowly withering away in space. They're certainly going to die, and then Captain Marvel appears out of nowhere and brings them back to Earth. Yes, that scene in the end of Captain Marvel where she meets them all for the first time wasn't in this. It is admittedly very rushed, all of this, but it does at least give you the sense that they're just trying to get it out the way before doing the proper story, so it's all very forgivable. We get people show their powers off, and there's just this withered down, broken Thanos. It still feels like the end of Infinity War, and you're just kind of waiting for them to get to the start of Endgame, and bang, then we do. There is a 5-year time jump. Yes, the time jump we had all speculated about. So with the world still struggling to move on, you've got Captain America doing a support group for people, while Black Widow seems to be trying to manage the fate of the universe with her crack team of superheroes. They devise another plan. Ant-Man returns from the quantum realm, tells him that time hasn't passed the same there as it has here, and maybe they could go back and fix it. Tony refuses their offers to help. He says he doesn't want anything to do with that because what's he done while they've all been away in the last 5 years? He settled down with Pepper and he's had his child. The snap was horrible. It has been horrible and horrible and horrible for bajillions of people. But Tony Stark had set him free. Or at least it appeared to have set him free. As we all know, Tony Stark has this addiction to being Iron Man. We've covered it in other videos. We've talked about it at length. He cannot stop himself playing the hero. He needs to rescue everybody. He needs to be the suit of armor around the world. And lo and behold, he cracks the time travel problem, joins up with his old pals, and they devise a new plan. And it's quite a clever one, in fairness, because Thanos has erased the stones from existence in the present. They need to go back to various points in all of their pasts to find them again. Now, I could spend hours and hours and hours and hours talking to you about what happens here and the various different things, but I will say that they're all quite good in their own right. The New York one especially, because you get to see Loki again, even though he disappears, and that's kind of all left a bit open. You get to see Hulk and the Ancient One having a great conversation about, well, pretty much the plot of the film and whether or not it makes sense. Plus, you get Captain America fighting Captain America, and two of the best one-liners delivered in the film. I won't ruin them for you here. From there, though, things start to go wrong because Nebula's there, and all of a sudden there's two Nebulas, and Thanos can sort of see into both Nebulas at the same time, and he learns of what's happening in the future and their plan now, and that sort of gets him back involved in the past, even though he's trying to mess with the present. It's a time travel movie, alright? So all of this is very confusing, but the film, I will say, does its best to make sense of all the various paradoxes it is creating. Now, sometimes it does that by explaining them away with very good science, and sometimes it just does it by recognizing that you will have noticed as a problem and going, nah, don't worry about that, which is enough. On Asgard, we get a cameo of sorts from Natalie Portman, and Thor, whose character is very weird in all of this, meets his mother again. And then on Vormir, we get Nat and Clint. And this is the two main problems I have with the film: Thor and the scene on Vormir. The film is just, you'll get my impressions of it in a bit. It's really good, okay? But there are two huge glaring issues for me. First off is the character of Thor. Now, a lot of people said they overpowered him massively in Thor Ragnarok. He basically became one of the supreme beings in the universe. And then in Infinity War, they had to sort of make a bit of a joke out of him, take him out of the equation for a while, play his character more for laughs in a far more serious film, and then only have him at the end where he just makes a bad decision, and that's kind of him taken care of. In Endgame, though, he is racked with the guilt of having missed that shot at the end of Infinity War. He should have gone for the head. Thanos taunts him with it, and even though he's killed Thanos himself in the present, he still looks at all these bajillions of dead people and thinks it could have been him. And as such, he's gone and set up New Asgard on Earth, where he's the supposed king of this realm, but in fact he is just now a fat, lazy slob. He is the Big Lebowski. They even do that gag in the film. He's wearing a robe and he's got a massive gut and he just wants to play Fortnite with Korg and Meek, which was admittedly quite good. But they just, it's the PTSD stuff for me, because Marvel have done such a good job of using that as part of Tony Stark's character. Like, you remember from the Battle of New York, he was having panic attacks, he was racked with the guilt and the pressure and the stress of it all, and it made him a vulnerable, relatable character. Now, they're doing the exact same thing with Thor here. He can't handle everything that's happened, and it is breaking him down as a person, but here, it's played for laughs. I might actually do like an entire video just discussing this, but the quick thing to compare and contrast is the Iron Man scene where Tony Stark starts to have a panic attack and he gets in the suit and it's scanning him mind and body, and it's like, boss, you're having a panic attack, and he's like, what? Me? But I'm such a strong character. I am a leader, I am a hero, and it makes him vulnerable, it makes him relatable. It's a great way to tackle all that mental health stuff. And then in this one, the exact same thing happens to Thor. He starts to have a panic attack and Rocket just goes, snap out of it, pull yourself together. And it's just, it's a funny scene. Like, if that's how you want to do that, fine, but you can't be doing all that and then do that. That's very inconsistent and sends a bad message. That being said, though, I expect the Thor thing to be quite divisive. I already know some people who thought it was brilliant what they did with the character, making him this slob who's funny and can still fight, obviously, but is still just a bit of a joke. But the one thing I think most people are going to criticize about this film is the death of Natasha Romanoff. Her and Clint are sent to Voromir to retrieve the Soul Stone, and we've seen that exact scene with Gamora and Thanos, and it's a bit confusing how they do it. We don't really know if they're there and they know what they're supposed to do, even though Rocket kind of plays it off as a bit of a gag when they're leaving, but they get there and one of them has to die, and then they fight over who has to be the one to die, and then in the end, Nat makes the supreme sacrifice, and then they just move on. That's it. It's literally just a couple of minutes and they leave it down there, they play the exact same music as when Gamora died, and that's it. Anyway, though, after that they do get the Soul Stone, and then everybody else has reassembled all of their stones, including Tony and Cap having to go even further back to 1970, which is a really nice scene in itself. And then they all reconverge for what will be the final act of the movie. They get the gauntlet together, Hulk snaps his fingers and brings everyone back to life. Yay, they think, and then no, boom, Thanos blows them all up. And from this blowing up of everybody, we get one of the most visually stunning, compelling, grandiose, large-scale, bombastic, unbelievable, I am running out of words, action sequences ever committed to cinema. It is a genuine sight to behold this. All the heroes come back and it's just fan moment after fan moment after fan moment after fan moment. You get Valkyrie riding in on a Pegasus thing. It's not actually a Pegasus. You get Spider-Man discovering his suit has instant kill mode. You get Falcon double lancing somebody with his wings. You get Giant Man. You get Thanos trying to headbutt Marvel and just getting absolutely no sold on it. It's just all mwah. And then, well, if you've seen this bit, you don't really need me to talk about it. And if you haven't, I'd rather you just saw it than listen to me, because I will not do it justice. We get Captain America picking up Thor's hammer. The pop that got in my cinema was, if I could bottle that moment, I would never ever open it again, because it would just be too precious. Now, if this all sounds ridiculous, it's because it is, like, the size of it, the scale of it, the set pieces, the enormity of the size of Thanos' army versus all the heroes of the MCU and the Wakandan tribes and all the sorcerers and pretty much every other body they could pull from somewhere. It is absurd, and that is where the comparisons to Infinity War have to really start, because the fight scenes there were largely small. Even the Battle of Wakanda felt intimate. The stakes were high, there was threat. They didn't play much of it off for laughs by normal MCU standards, and you didn't really know what was going to happen, and thus your heart was on the line with every single punch, with every single kick, with every single spell. Whereas here, it's just big Now, hey, that might just be me, and if you tell me that's not you, I would completely agree with you. There was just a bit of nuance lacking that I really missed from Infinity War, and maybe that's unfair of me. Maybe it's impossible to recreate that knowing how they have to end this thing, but there you go. It's just how I felt. And then the ending, which is more perfect. In fact, you know what it is? I can't even commit Tony Stark dying, finally completing his Iron Man journey to this review, because it's not a reviewable element of a film. The Russos' whole idea behind this is clearly to ask you as a fan, how much have you put in emotionally to the MCU? And if you say everything, they go, okay, have it all back. Here is everything you want. And if you say, well, not a lot, but I kind of like it, they go, well, okay, here's a film you'll kind of like. And the death of Iron Man at the end is the pinnacle of this. I was so moved by it, and it felt so perfect because I've invested so much in that character. If you haven't, you'll not get the same thing out of it. The film itself is based around this premise of giving back to the fans in this wonderful, messy, chaotic way. And if you have, then it will. Tony Stark's Iron Man addiction is finally the thing that kills him, and Pepper Potts doesn't say, I love you, or I'll miss you, Tony. She doesn't use any of those old cliche words. She just says, you can rest now. And that was just the most perfect way to do it. Well done. And then, in a very Lord of the Rings style, the ending upon the ending upon the ending, Steve goes to return all the stones back to the past to kind of cut off all the little time loops and paradoxes, and doesn't return. And you're like, where's he gone? He's sitting on the bench having grown old with Peggy Carter instead of coming back in time. It was a lifetime for him. It was 5 seconds for us. And again, it felt a little rushed, but you can't deny that it was the perfect send-off for that character. And indeed, a brave new chapter for the MCU as he hands off the shield to Falcon. It's a triumph at the end of the day. It might not work in some parts. Other things could have been done slightly better. I would personally have rewritten things this way and that way. But overall, what else can you say? It was 11 years. It was 22 films. The grandest cinematic project ever undertaken. No one will ever attempt to do anything like this ever again. They started with nothing. They threw the original Iron Man film at the wall and just wanted to see if it would stick. They took a washed up actor in Robert Downey Jr., stuck him on a not popular superhero for the time. By the way, nobody in my playground was running around pretending to be Iron Man, and somehow 11 years later birthed the biggest superhero saga ever told. The biggest cinematic saga ever told. It is, whatever you want to say about this film, however many stars you would give it, a triumph. But as ever, I'm far more interested to know what you make of all of this, so shout it out in the comments below, and of course don't forget to like, share and subscribe. In the meantime though, thank you so much for watching. Please do not spoil Endgame for your friends and loved ones, you dick. I'll be watching. My name's Ben Adam Cleary, and I'll see you soon.